If you don't actually work for Yonder, you probably absolutely despise these stupid little pouches. Indeed, kids hate them so much, they're paying $50 for magnets off Amazon just to get them open. Teachers are calling them a massive waste of time. And parents are turning up to school board meetings genuinely frightened about what happens when their kid can't reach them in an emergency. And I'll be honest, when I first heard about them, I thought they seemed fine, because I reflected on my own school days. We had Sony Ericsson's LG chocolates, phones that admittedly looked stunning, but you couldn't do much on them. And nowadays, phones are so much more distracting. Surely something needed to be done. Maybe these pouches were the reasonable answer. But then I thought about it some more, and I realized that their very existence is insulting to students. Because when I was at school, I actually got my phone confiscated. Year 10, playing Bobby Carrot under the desk. The teacher clocked me in about 30 seconds. Next day, I kept it in my pocket. Lesson learned. And that was the system. You were trusted with your phone. If you broke that trust, there were consequences. You still had your phone the next day because the default position was trust. Yonder scraps that entirely. You walk in, your phone gets locked before you've even sat down. You haven't done anything wrong. You haven't disrupted a lesson, and yet your property is already sealed away. That's collective punishment, and it's insulting. It could even stop a student calling for help when they need it most, and don't worry, we'll get to that. So, you walk into school, slide your phone into this neoprene sleeve, a member of staff locks it away with a magnetic base, and that's you done for the day. So, you carry your phone around. You can feel it, you can hear it buzzing, but you can't touch it. The only way to open it is at a magnetic unlocking station by the school exits. But do they even work? A student journalist wrote, "It took only a few days for students to find ways around the Yonder pouches. From smuggling in decoy phones to ordering magnets off Amazon, teenagers have thoroughly dismantled the fantasy. Within weeks, teachers had given up and students were scrolling TikTok in the corridors." LAUSD, by the way, spend $7 million on these pouches that very clearly do not work. Indeed, a teacher in Harlem watched the same thing happen. It started well, with 3 days of bliss. It was the first time in 3 decades that teachers could actually teach without saying, "Put your phone away." Then it all went to hell. Students started taking pens and stabbing through the fake Kevlar pouches. Other kids started using their keys to saw the locking mechanism off. Others would bring 2 phones to school. And one kid, and this is my favorite bit, went on Amazon and bought the magnet that unlocked the phone pouches for $50. Then he charged kids $1 every time they wanted to unlock their phones. Proper little Alan Sugar there. If you agree with me that they're insulting, why not smash that like button? If you don't, then watch the rest of the video and decide. Yonder's own director admitted the pouches are intentionally designed not to be indestructible. That they're meant to be a reminder that now is not the time or place to be engaging with your cell phone. So, schools are paying $30 per student for a reminder. That's what the company itself calls its own product. Imagine selling a lock to someone and then telling them it was never really supposed to keep anything locked. That's the pitch, and yet schools are still buying millions of them. About as secure as Azkaban. Sirius broke into there as a dog. The kids are doing it with a pencil. This Minnesotan teacher said, "Nobody goes into education in order to become the phone police. If my head teacher had ever told me that I was personally responsible for a kid's £1,000 phone locked in a neoprene sock, I'd have laughed. And then I'd have probably cried." And as for the company behind the pouches, they spent over $100,000 lobbying politicians in New York to push through phone ban laws that funnel schools into buying their product. So, in fact, they help build the market they're profiting from. If you want to see what else schools are spending your money on and getting wrong, please hit subscribe, because Yonder is just the start. So, they don't work, teachers hate them, and and the company lobbied to create the laws that make schools buy them. Does your school use Yonder pouches? If it does, then let me know in that comment section what you think of them. I'm guessing it's not going to be positive, but here's where it stops being funny. I had a student, let's call him Jay, who had a panic attack during lunch. It was full on. He couldn't breathe. He was shaking, but he texted his mum from the toilets, and I believe she talked it through over messages. He came back to class 10 minutes later and nobody even knew. The phone gave him privacy and speed. Lock it in a Yonder pouch, however, and Jay has to find a teacher. He has to explain what's happening through a panic attack, wait for someone to call home through reception, by which point half the school knows and the panic's 10 times worse. And these are just everyday situations. Now think about what happens when there's a weapon in the building. Manchester High School, Connecticut, February 2026. A student actually brought a weapon into the building. Students were told to stay in their classrooms. They weren't even told it was a lockdown, and school was dismissed early. And yet, the Yonder pouches stayed locked, in the words of one student. When it was happening, they still didn't let us on our phones, even if we didn't have them in the pouch. We were still getting in trouble for having our phones out to call our parents. Getting told off for ringing your mum during an emergency? Dude, that's just ridiculous. If I had been a kid in that school, I'd have honestly been terrified. And I probably wouldn't have even been scared of the pouch. I'd have been scared that the adults in charge thought that the pouch mattered more than me being able to call home. The mum of the student who got in trouble for using her phone said, "A child's first instinct is to call their parents. I understand the mass chaos it can cause. A bunch of parents rushing up to the school. But at the end of the day, those are our children. We deserve to know what's going on with our child. And if you're keeping them away from us during an emergency, it's concerning." Concerning is one word for it. Horrifying is another. And Manchester, it wasn't some freak incident. There were 3 emergency incidents in under a year. In February 2025, it was a different student, a different weapon, but a classmate still got pepper sprayed. The student, Madison Jones, told Fox 61, "No Yonder pouches, because when situations happen like this, I can't get in contact with my mum. I can't get in contact with my dad, and they're blowing up my phone, but it's in the Yonder pouch." Just think about that, if you will, from the parents' side. Your kid's school is in lockdown. You're ringing them. You're texting. And yet you hear back nothing. And you know they've got their phone with them. They're just physically prevented from answering it. It really shouldn't be allowed. In December 2025, another incident occurred. An individual from outside the school entered the building and it went into full lockdown. So that's 3 times, 3 emergencies. And yet, the Manchester school's response, by the way, was to tighten enforcement. Yep, they made it even stricter. As of March 2026, students have to show their locked Yonder pouch before they're even allowed through the door. And the thing that really got me when I looked into how these pouches actually work, it's that individual teachers can't unlock them. Yes, the only way to open a Yonder pouch is at a magnetic unlocking station, and those stations are by the exits. So, picture this. You're in a lockdown. You're told to stay in the classroom, and the only way to get your phone out of the pouch is to walk to the exit of the building, while you're being told to stay where you are. Aidan Mollahan, a student in Cincinnati, started a petition that got 2,800 signatures. And he asked something that I've been thinking about ever since. What if there's no faculty member to call 911? What if kids want to say their last words to their parents? And again, I hate to bring this up because it's a really harsh subject, but what if it's your kids? If I was a parent, that question would honestly keep me up at night. Given what happens in American schools, students have used their phones during emergencies to contact families and emergency services. Lock those phones in a Yonder pouch and those calls don't get made. Those texts don't get sent. Those families don't hear from their kids. A parent from Arkansas asked the only question that really matters. If my child had these and a school emergency happened, how could they say they love me? And that's where this ends up every single time. Because you can talk about money, you can talk about lobbying, you can talk about students cracking them open with pencils, but it always comes back to that question, and nobody at Yonder has an answer for it. Because you shouldn't have to hope that the one day something goes wrong is the one day that the system works, right? How? The system doesn't work on any day. If your school uses Yonder pouches, why not send your parents this video? From me, Snipe Snap, and from my cat, Lisa, we'll see you for the next one. Snipe, Snap, out.